Sometimes when you're mapping in the field, you may want to collect samples, either for making vein sections or for making geochemical analysis. And many outcrops can be very difficult to sample, mainly because that you don't have the right surfaces. And in that case, you may need, for example, use a rock saw or even a hand drill to get a sample. But if you don't have that, what you can do is to basically go to the edges of the outcrops and look for surfaces that you can easily hammer with a hydraulical hammer. And when you collect a sample, it's very important to try to get rid of the weathering surface. So the surface of the outcrops will always be covered with moss and lichen and dirt, and also usually you have like 1 centimeter at least of the rock that has been modified by weathering. So when doing this, you should basically aim at collecting a chemically pure sample of unweathered material, and that's what I'm going to try to do now. And when collecting samples, especially when you're working in crystalline rocks such as here in northern Sweden, you always need to use the safety glasses because there will be splinters. It's also recommendable that you put on working gloves, because these ricochet that you get when you are hammering, they can basically create injuries on your hands. And this will also help to get a better grip in the hammer. And finally, you should also have a sample bag at hand so that you can collect pieces. And now I will start the process of collecting a hydraulical sample. So usually collecting a sample like this, it can take quite some time. And what's important here is that you don't really need to pry loose one big chunk of rock. It's actually better to just go for the small pieces of pure material. You don't want to have these pieces that have, you still have sides here with lichen, and then you can also see this centimeter thick rim of weathered material. Now when we are sampling, we are usually interested in the primary composition of the rock, which means that this material that you have here, this has been weathering, so it won't be representative. And if you plan to use these chemical data for example, protolith determination or alteration vectoring, you will get misleading results from having sample pieces with this kind of material. So what you want instead is to have like these really clean, pristine pieces that you get basically as shrapnels when you are crushing the rock. And it's actually better to have 10 pieces like this than a few big pieces like this. And when you have pieces like this that you can still see some of the weathering rim, you can always try to remove it by basically gently hitting it with the hammer like this. And this way you may be able to break off the weathering rim. But you have to be careful that you don't hit yourself, obviously, in your fingers. So as you're hammering, you take breaks, then you collect the clean pieces. And I put the pieces on top of the bag in the beginning, not in the bag. After a while I will have enough material for my sample, and then I will take the cleanest, the purest samples with basically no weathering surfaces or lichen, and put them in the bag. And as I said, it's better to have many of these small pieces that are clean than having a few big pieces that are modified by weathering. So it's very common that people can be a bit stressed or lazy, so that they may go for a fast sample. But the important thing is that once you have made your analysis, then basically you are stuck with that data. So you want to make sure that the samples that you collect are the best possible. And yeah, less is more, you could say. This is not maybe half a kilo, but still it's better than half a kilo of bad sample material. So I will go for this. What we usually always also do is that we collect a hand specimen from the same outcrop. And in this case, you don't need to get a specimen that is clean on all sides. You can have one side that is clean, and then you can have the other one covered with lichen. And this is useful because then you can maybe learn how to recognize this rock type based on the overgrowth of lichen. And usually we would name this. I mean, you can write a coordinate, of course, on it, but sometimes you may not want to put the coordinate on the rock. Then you can maybe just put like an outcrop number. For example, AL14, as this outcrop is called. And then we would also mark the sample. I mean, when you're doing so, it's actually better to not write on the sample bag, because if the sample bag gets wet, then you will actually lose your marking. So ideally, you would write the sample ID on a note and put it in the bag. And once you're done with that, you would basically take the bag and you would seal it and not open it before it goes to the lab. Unless you find need for cleaning the sample. For example, if you have been collecting it under rainy or muddy conditions, then you may want to clean it when you get home. But otherwise, you should avoid opening the sample bag before it goes to the lab. And yeah, that's how you collect a geochemical sample.